Hello. Welcome to the Assessment Alchemist, the podcast where we transform the daunting world of assessments into a journey of empowerment and achievement for educators and students alike. I'm Tina Wiles, your guide in this quest to conquer test anxiety and unlock the secrets of effective test preparation. In each episode, we'll mix the perfect blend of expert insights, practical strategies, and inspiring stories, all designed to help you turn test taking into a positive, enriching experience for your students. Whether you're a teacher, a school counselor, or an educational enthusiast, you're in the right place to create alchemy in learning and assessment. So let's dive into today's topic and discover how we can turn educational challenges into opportunities for growth and success. Welcome to the Assessment Alchemist. Today, we are going to talk all about time. Okay, and I'm going to start off with explaining something to you that is called time dilation. Okay, so time dilation is like when you're playing with a toy car on a super fast roller coaster. Okay, so if you have a special watch that only ticks once every second. Now, if you're on the roller coaster and you're going super fast, you might still tick your watch will still tick once per every second. But if someone is watching you on the roller coaster, they're going to see that your watch is ticking slower than theirs. Okay. So for you on the roller coaster, time feels normal. But for someone watching from the outside, it seems like time's going slower for you. Okay. That's because when things move really, really fast, time slows down a bit. It is like magic, but it's actually called time dilation. And it's all Einstein's theory of relativity. Okay. So it sounds like a weird topic that I'm going to start talking about assessments, explaining what time dilation is. But so there is where time actually is different based off of the speed that you're going or looks like it's different. But I also wanted to talk about how time is relative. Okay. And what I mean by that is you can be doing something that you absolutely love doing. You could be like hanging out with friends or family and laughing. You could be completely entrenched in a book or a movie or a TV show where you're like, how did 2 hours just pass? I have no idea where 2 hours went. Or when you're like in the zone of like working on something, right? Like you could be so into what you're doing that you don't even realize that time is passing. Okay. And then now think about like the last 5 minutes of work before your vacation officially starts. Or for kids in school, like those last few minutes before it's time for the end of summer, right? Like you could watch and the clock actually looks like it's ticking slow because you were just waiting on something. Or like a watch pot never boils, right? If you're sitting there waiting for water to boil and you're just staring at it, it feels like it's taking forever. Okay. All of those examples to show you that time is relative, right? So, what that means is it's the importance that we're putting on time and what we're doing, right? That can affect how we're perceiving time. All right. So, just to show you, like if I like, and you could try doing this, I'm not going to do it now, but if what you can do is actually start like your phone timer, okay, and hit start, flip your phone over, and then wait until, without counting, wait until you think 1 minute has passed. Then flip your phone over when you think a minute has passed and see how close you actually are, right? So all these thoughts and activities are just to show you that when you feel like you're in a time crunch or right like you're taking an exam and you feel like there's a clock ticking over your head or students that always feel like they run out of time on exams, right? Time is how you're perceiving it. Okay. So the running out of time on exams, the issue isn't the time on the exam. So that's what we put the blame on. But the issue isn't the time, it's how you're approaching it and perceiving it and managing it while you're taking the exam. Okay. So um the time, like I said, you feel like there's a giant clock over your head. Time is just a way that we actually made up to measure how things pass. Okay. And so as you're getting ready to work, like say we're getting ready to study for an exam, um, time management is so important. And as a mom of four kids, I have four sons, ages 14 to 21, two of my sons are in college. I hear a lot of parents of college kids talking about like, oh, Johnny studied for, so many hours for his finals and he was like living at the library. Um, or I don't think they studied at all, right? It's not about how long you're preparing for something, it's about how effective you are at preparing. And so the in order, like I have one student that I could think of that was really struggling with one of her college classes. And in the I study 6 hours a day. Every moment I have, I'm like sitting there. I have a 4 hour block. I for 4 hours I sit and work and like read through things and look at my notes. Again, it's not about how long you're doing it, it's about how effective you are. And so I'll talk in another video about effective ways to study, and we'll talk about with some experts about effective ways to study. But today I'm talking about the actual management of the time that you have and how to make that time as productive and as focused and as beneficial as possible. Okay, so when it comes to time management in preparing for the exam, the way that I recommend preparing is something called Pomodoros. Okay. Pomodoros is actually the name Pomodoro is means tomato in Italian. And the strategy came up with someone using like they had used to have kitchen timers that actually looked like tomatoes, and the timer was 25 minutes. And so that's how they came up with this name. But the idea of working in Pomodoros is that you work in 25-minute increments. Okay. And in the 25 minutes, you're completely focused, like phone away, not looking at the internet, only looking at what you're supposed to be working on. If it is on the internet, that's fine, but close all the other tabs or something, right? Focus completely for 25 minutes. And then after 25 minutes, you get a 5-minute break. That's when you can look at something else, go to the bathroom, grab a snack. After 5 minutes, the timer goes off again, and you have another 25 minutes of being productive. Okay. So, a couple reasons why I find this so effective in getting things done. When I've mentioned the student that worked for like 4 hours at a time. Okay. When you're sitting there for 4 hours and doing continuous like studying or reading, you're not going to retain the information that you're studying, right? It all like comes together in a big glob. Like I don't know what exactly I looked over this chapter, right? But your brain can't handle that much intense focus. 25 minutes, and then you give your brain a 5-minute break, and then another 25 minutes. Those are chunks that our brain can actually digest a lot better than those long chunks. Okay. So the first reason to do this is because it's really going to help you with being able to remember and retain the information that you're studying. The second reason is because when you're giving yourself these breaks, getting up and doing some physical movement or like I said, going to the bathroom, getting something to eat, all of that physical movement and instead of just studying is actually also going to help you with retention. Okay. And then the third reason that I want you to do these Pomodoros is because it's going to make you, instead of saying, I need to read chapter 2, it makes you break things down into bite-sized chunks. So instead of reading chapter 2, I'm going to read chapter 2, section 1. I'm going to read chapter 2, chapter whatever, section 2. When you do that and break it down into the bite-sized chunks, it actually gives you a much better idea of how much you have to do and the time that you want to get it done in. Okay. So, in the world of Pomodoros, so the couple key things are, like I said, it's uninterrupted 25 minutes, like completely focused 25 minutes, not looking at your phone, not looking at text messages or anything that comes in. Um, the other essential thing is once you start a Pomodoro, you finish it. So you do that full 25 minutes. Okay. And once you do 4 Pomodoros, so 4 25-minute sections, you give yourself a 30-minute break. Okay. So again, helps break up that time and helps with the retention. Now let's talk about the magic of time management when it comes to taking an exam. Okay. And in a previous episode, I talked a little bit about like the negative voice that can go on in your head while you're taking an exam. And very common, I hear from students, is the voice that they hear going on in their head feels like a giant clock that is over and is so like ticking down, like almost like they could hear the ticking of the clock. So hard to focus when you think every second that you're spending is wasting and that you're going to not be able to get through the exam. Okay. So you need to tell that voice to shut up. Okay. That voice that's telling you you don't have time is not real. Okay. You have plenty of time on exams as long as you keep moving through the exam. All right. So giving yourself some natural breakpoints to check the time so that you don't feel like you need to constantly be thinking about it. So on pencil and paper exams, you could do like 2 pages of work and then check the time. On computer exams, every 10 questions or so, or when you feel like there's like a natural break, or maybe you feel like you're losing a little bit of focus, check the time, stretch a little, and then come back to focused. Okay. But you're going through the exam. All right. Another tip of what you could use if you feel like time is an issue in exams is I use the rule of twice. Okay. What I mean by that is as you're going through an exam, if you have to read a question more than twice, I want you to skip it and come back and look at it again later. Okay. So I think about it as like a time vortex. If you're taking an exam and you're looking at a question and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And I'm stuck between these answer choices. And you go back up and you read the question again. And then you read all the answer choices. And then you're like, I don't know. And you're trying to talk yourself into an answer and you keep rereading it. You have no idea how long you're spending on that problem, right? It's like the kid that's watching a movie and they don't like I've been there for 2 hours, right? Or the time when you're with your best friends and you don't realize how much time is passing, right? That's what happens in this time vortex where you have no idea how long you've been spending on a problem. So, twice, read through it twice, you're still not sure, that's when I want you to mark it to come back, or in the software, if you're using an online test, check it to come back and look at it after you've had a break. Okay. The reason that I use this rule of 2 is because after my theory is after you go through and you read a question a couple times, it's either a hard question or maybe you're misreading something. And if you keep going through the same question over and over again, you're going to keep misreading it the same way. When you give yourself a break and then you come back and look at it, it's a lot easier to focus on what the words actually are there because it's like you're reading it again for the first time. Awesome. So I went through relatively quickly a couple of key ideas when it comes to time. So, again, just to summarize, remember time is relative. right? And so we actually have a lot more time than you might think that you do when you're doing things. Secondly, Pomodoros are how I want you to manage time when it comes to studying. And then third, when you're looking at timing for an exam, you're going to make sure that you're not listening to that voice that's telling you don't have enough time and keep moving forward through the test. Again, rule two, if you read it twice and you're not sure, you're going to skip it and come back. Okay. Just those simple things can make a huge difference when you're going through an exam. Hopefully, this gives you some ideas for assessment to either share with your own students or if you're getting ready to take an exam. And thank you so much for joining me today. And if you are interested in being on the Assessment Alchemist podcast, please check out mytutor.com. That's my the number 2 tor.com/podcast to fill out a form to come on and join me on the podcast. I hope you have a wonderful day and I'll see you next week.